Hello and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Funhouse on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. I hope y'all are having a great day so far. We will be diving deeper into the fantasy football world. Once again, we have my awesome sidekick, Granberg, and your incredible, stunning host, drum roll please, me! We've got a great show for you guys today, including our superpower game of the week. Keep tuned to find out what it is. Once again, we have my favorite segment, Heroes and Villains. And again, we will jump into the fundamentals of fantasy football and this incredible hobby that we call fantasy football. Hit it, Granberg!
All right, welcome back, aspiring fantasy football champions. Today, we embark on an epic journey to conquer fantasy football drafts. Mason and I are here to guide you through your heroic steps of the way. Think of this as your training montage where you assemble your league of heroes, scout your players like the world's greatest detectives, and prepare for a thrilling battle that is draft day. Just as every superhero needs a solid plan to defeat their foes, you'll need a strategy to outsmart your competition and build a winning roster. So grab your capes and get ready, because with the right tactics, you'll be well on your way to claiming the championship trophy and solidifying your place in fantasy football history. So the first step is what, Mace?
Assembling your League of Heroes. The first step on your epic quest to dominate fantasy football is to gather your league, much like the Avengers assembling to face a great threat. You can join a public league where anyone can sign up, or a private league where you need an invitation. Think of it as being recruited into a secret superhero society. Before diving in, make sure you understand the league rules and format. This is crucial. After all, even the mightiest heroes need a solid plan before taking on the evilest villains.
Yeah, great idea. The best advice I have, really, for especially beginners, is get a bunch of people that you're friends with, maybe everybody that you have same interests with, and kind of start from there. So then your next step is to scout your players like a super sleuth. So before the draft, you need to scout the players, your potential superheroes. Research is the key. Looking at players' stats, team dynamics, and their performance trends, just like Batman studies his foes. You'll want to have a list of players ranked according to your preference. Understanding your league and your league scoring system is also very, very important too. So we'll help you create a draft strategy and a flawless as Wonder Woman's lasso of truth. So think about it as, places where you can find information like that is on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. You can find, player rankings and all that kind of stuff, all nestled into that great community. So the day of the draft, let's begin the adventure, Mason. So what happens on the day of the draft? Let's get more into that.
Well, the day of the draft is like the climatic battle scene of your superhero movie. This is when you pick your players one by one until your roster is complete. Whether you're drafting in person with your league or virtually through an app, the excitement is groundbreaking. Picture your team forming like the Justice League, each player bringing their own unique powers to the table. Don't forget to draft all the necessary positions, just like a superhero team needs their balance. Your fantasy team does too.
So timing is everything. So schedule the perfect draft. Choosing the time for your draft can feel like a big task, or a superhero terms, herding the cats, getting a Justice League to agree in a meeting spot or a place online. aim to schedule your draft as close to the start of the regular season as possible. This way, you'll have the latest news on all the players, coming in. Some injuries might be happening.
Trades.
Yeah, exactly. So similar to how superheroes gather intel before a mission, remember, the closer to the season you draft, the more informed your choices will be. So, what happens then once everybody's in one place? What happens, Mason?
You set the draft order.
Okay.
Who goes first? Draft order can be determined in various fun ways. Some leagues let an app randomize it, which takes the heat off any disputes, while other might hold competitions like superhero training challenges, whether it's a video game, tournament, or race. Make it an adventure. If your league has been around for a while, consider using last season's standings to set the order, rewarding the strongest players with earlier picks, much like how the top heroes often get the spotlight.
So, different types of order for drafting. You can have like a snake draft, and it's like a heroic twist. So, most fantasy leagues.
Wait, what's a snake draft?
Exactly. So, while most fantasy leagues use a snake format, which is a fun twist to the typical draft order, you're drafting last in the first round, and then you'll get the first pick in the second round. So, you'll start at say if you're first overall, you'll pick one, and then it'll go 1 to 12, and then 12 will pick a second time, and then it goes all the way back to 1. So, kind of like a serpentine. So, this means your strategy might need to adapt as the draft unfolds, making you as clever as the Flash darting through obstacles. Keep an eye on your opponents and anticipate their moves. So, what are some things that we should be keeping in mind, Mason, when drafting?
Time limits for sure. Quick thinking in the heat of a battle. Each pick usually has a time limit, ranging from 30 to 90 seconds, to keep the draft moving. This adds a thrilling element like a countdown clock in a superhero film. If you run out of time, the app will auto pick the highest ranked player for you. So it's a good idea to be prepared. Just remember, even the greatest heroes can have off days. So trust your instincts and pick wisely.
Good advice, Mason. Now, the next step is building your roster, assemble your super squad. When drafting, most leagues will have to select a quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex position. And some leagues will make you draft the defense and a kicker. Think of as assembling your superhero squad. You need a balanced team of different powers to take on the season. As a beginner, starting with two solid running backs is a wise strategy. Think of them as your heavy hitters. Now, Mason, what is the next stage, if you will, to the draft?
Well, it's the art of player selection. Choose wisely. Choose wisely. There's no one size fits all method for selecting players. Follow the rankings, but trust your gut. This is your chance to become the hero of your own story. Draft players who have shown potential and might deliver big returns, just like choosing the right superheroes for your mission. And even if you're ever in doubt, the app's auto pick feature can swoop in to save the day.
So the journey ahead, play like a champion. After the draft, your adventure continues. Stay engaged with your team throughout the season. Monitor player performances, make strategic trades, and adapt your lineup as needed. Just like a superhero faces new challenges, you'll have to adjust to injuries and bye weeks. With dedication and strategic thinking, you could emerge victorious, raising the championship trophy like the ultimate hero. So good luck, and may your fantasy team soar to new heights. Now, Mason, let's get into the next segment, and that is our super powered game of the week. And this week is the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers, and they are set to clash in a showdown that is bursting with energy and excitement, with both teams vying for supremacy in the NFC North. This matchup at Lambeau Field promises to deliver the kind of high octane action that rivals any epic comic book battle. Buckle up, because this game could reshape the fantasy playoff landscape and power up fantasy football lineups across the league. Mason, what do you got for us?
As we gear up for a showdown worthy of a comic book lore, the Week 9 clash between the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers is shaping up to be a super-powered spectacle. This NFC North battle at Lambeau Field will have all the intensity of a superhero face-off, as both teams sitting at 6-1 and the Packers at 6-2. This matchup isn't just about bragging rights; it's about claiming the top spot before heading into the second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, both teams playing really good football. The only situation here, Jordan Love, he suffered that injury. Malik Willis came in last week, did okay. But what does that mean now, Mason? Like, what does that mean? Well, the Lions are nothing short from heroic lately, right? They've been having a really good 5-game win streak, and they have showcased through the league, led by the unfallible Jared Goff, who's been just ever cool like Batman behind the wheel. Detroit's offense has been a scoring machine. So, like a well coordinated superhero team, 7 different Lions have found the end zone, showcasing their offensive depth and versatility. So, Mason, bring it on home. What are the stakes?
The stakes are extremely high, as just as any great superhero tale, the game will hinge on pivotal matchups that could tilt the scales. The Lions' defensive backs, including the dynamic duo of Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch, will need to channel their inner superheroes to contain the Packers' versatile receiving threats.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of receiving threats there, and we never know who they're going to be targeting every week. Could it be Romeo Dobbs?
Could it be Jaden Reed?
Could it be
Tucker Kraft?
Dontavian Wicks? We don't know, and that's the challenge we, as fantasy managers and superheroes and villains, have to figure out. So, grab your capes and prepare for this epic showdown that will have fantasy managers everywhere cheering as the Lions and the Packers face off in a showdown that is going to make our lineups the super powered game of the week. Now, where can you find a community, Mason, where everybody can talk about fantasy football? What is that
The
called?
Fantasy Sports Advice Network.
Let's go.
We are here. We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
My favorite segment is the heroes and villains of the week,
It's like the ultimate showdown of the fantasy football universe.
where each player takes on a superhero or villain personal.
Yeah, let's go. So, who this week, Mason, are you starting for sure? And he is going to be kind of like your start of the week or your superhero of the week this week. Who is it?
Devonta Smith. This week, Devonta Smith has truly emerged as my superhero, showcasing incredible talent and determination that inspires not just fans, but everyone who dares to dream big. With his lightning-fast speed and unpropelled agility on the football field, he transforms into a superhero whenever he dons his jersey. Whether he is making jaw-dropping catches or executing precise routes, Devonta exhibits skills that seem almost superhuman, leaving defenders in the dust and fans on the edge of their seats. His performances remind us that with hard work and dedication, we can all unlock our own superpowers.
Yeah, I mean, he's got resilience. He plays really hard. I think he's got a very good matchup this week. We know, that defense isn't very good against the pass, and they give up a lot of yardage. So I'm expecting, Devonta Smith to embody the spirit of a true champion on the field this week. So, Mason, why? Just like a superhero, he understands that his influence extends beyond the game.
Just like any superhero, he understands that his influence extends beyond the game, just like you said there. That's a quote by my dad. He is committed to making a positive impact by supporting local innovatives and encouraging young athletes to pursue their passions. Devonta demonstrates that heroism isn't just athlete prowess, it's lifting others up and leading by example. For these reasons, Devonta Smith is undoubtedly my hero of the week.
Yeah, good call, man. It's not just about football. It's about being a good person and doing the right thing when things matter. And he does that on and off the field. So I like that as a great role model, Mason. That's a really good call there. And he's going to have a big game this week, too. So my hero of the week is Aaron Jones, and he's ready to don his cape and make a statement despite his recent performance against the Rams. Although in that game, he was more of a sidekick, rushing 19 times for 58 yards and 37 yards receiving. He didn't let that fool you, folks. Just like Batman rising from the shadows, Jones showed he can be of a key player even in tough circumstances. Tying for second on the team in receptions proves he's got the ability of Spider-Man, making plays in the air when ground opportunities are limited. So, Mason, what about his matchup this week? What do you think?
He's going against the Colts. It's clear Jones is set for a superhero-worthy comeback. The Colts defense has struggled, much like a villain with a weakness to kryptonite, and Jones is primed to exploit that. After spending last season in the Fortress of Solitude, ranked 30th in scrimmage yards and touchdowns, Jones is now ready to reclaim his role as the Vikings lead back.
With his health restored, he's ready to carry the workload. So don't forget that every hero deserves a redemption arc, and Jones is due for a scoring surge with his touchdowns and fantasy points have been on a downward trajectory. This new chapter with the Vikings offers him a chance to rise like Captain America with his dual threat capabilities and favorable matchup against the Colts. He's shaping up to be a low-end running back too, with running back one upside. So gear up and get ready. Aaron Jones is poised to be your fantasy league superhero of the week. Now, Mason, there's plenty of players here that have underperformed, leaving their teams in dire straits and fans in disbelief. With costly mistakes and missed opportunities, they've earned their spot this week's fantasy football villains. First up, who is your first villain? Who is your villain this week?
Rachaad White. Rachaad White in the grand arena of fantasy football, where heroes rise and fall each week. Rachaad White emerges as my villain of the week, wielding his unpredictability like a chaotic force. One heralded as a potential star, his inconsistent performances have left fantasy managers reeling, much like a supervillain who reveals in creating mayhem. Despite his opportunities, White has stumbled, often leaving his supporters questioning if he's the hero they need or merely a false idol. Each Sunday, as the stakes rise, so does the tension. And well, with Rachaad at the helm, it feels like we're caught in a whirlwind of disappointment.
Yeah, this week, White's underwhelming stats have turned into an embodiment of every fantasy player's worst nightmare. His erratic running and lack of touchdowns have sown seeds of doubt in the hearts of loyal followers, leaving them feeling betrayed, as if he's donned a cape of inconsistency, transforming from a promising sidekick into a rogue villain, wreaking havoc on lineups and hopes alike. So fantasy managers are left grappling with the emotional fallout as Rachaad's performance feels like a plot twist. This is one that we saw coming, not all of us. So reminiscent of a last-minute betrayal in a superhero saga.
As we navigate this tumultuous season, Rachaad White's villainy serves as a thrilling subplot in our fantasy narrative, keeping us on the edge of our seats and reminding us that every hero's journey is fraught with peril.
Yeah. So another guy here that I'm keeping on my bench until I see what he can do in that offense, and that is a villain that I call Amari Cooper. And after his dismal performance against the Seahawks, where he just managed one pass for 3 yards and 2 targets, Cooper has transformed into a menacing force. So if we're looking at his stats, he ranks 134th overall and 38th among wide receivers. So Mason, I'm not really high on him this week. So what do you think in the broader context?
His 5-game performance showcases just 234 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns, painting a picture of a player who's betraying the expectations of his fantasy managers. Like a classic villain, Cooper is wreaking havoc on your lineup and draining your hopes of victory.
We are hoping for a resurgence here, so we'll see how he fits in the game 3. But this Miami defense is a tough one. It spells further disaster. While Miami has only allowed 100 yards to a couple players, they haven't permitted more than 1 touchdown in any single player. So I'm escaping the darkness, and I'm keeping him on my bench. Now, Mason, let's get into our top 5s this week. So what are we talking about? I'm going to start.
Dynasty tight ends.
All right, so Dynasty. Remember we talked about Dynasty leagues last week, so we talked about them staying on our lineups throughout the whole year, and I'm going to start with my number 1, and that's Brock Bowers. Who's your number 1?
Dalton Kincaid.
Mason is a big fan of Dalton Kincaid still. So who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Brock Bowers.
So that was my number 1. So my number 2 is Trey McBride from the Arizona Cardinals.
My number 2 is Sam Laporta.
Nice.
Oh, sorry. My number 3 is Sam Laporta.
Okay. And then my number 3 is Kyle Pitts. Who's your number 4?
My number 4 is Trey McBride.
Okay. My number 4 is Sam Laporta.
And then my number 5 has to be Kyle Pitts.
And he's got Kyle Pitts. So I have a difference here. I got Tucker Kraft that's come into my top 5. So a little bit of differences there. But yeah. That is our top 5s this week. I hope all you kids had a great Halloween, enjoying all the candy that you probably got yummed up in your bellies now. Hopefully it was a nice, safe, trip outside or whatever you did. Mason, what else do you got for us?
Yeah, thank you for watching again. I hope you guys tune in every Saturday. And as we say on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, we hope you win.
Yeah. So remember to like and subscribe to all our stuff. You can find me on the Fantasy Forecast with Biggs, 3 days a week on the PAT as well, Points After Thursday. And you can find Mason and I always here every Saturday morning on the Fantasy Football Funhouse on the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. So, folks, from all of us here on the Fantasy Football Advice Network and the Fantasy Fun House,
we hope you win.
We hope you win.